In the mid-20th century, American immigrant vineyard and farm workers endured low wages, poor working conditions, and minimal legal protections. These hardships prompted workers to organize and strike, culminating in the Delano Grape Strike of 1965. Leaders such as Larry Itlong and Cesar Chavez established nonviolent protests and boycotts, aiming to unionize the entire American grape industry. The strike concluded with growers granting higher pay, improved working conditions, and legal labor protections, transforming the rights of American immigrant vineyard and farm workers for generations to come.
Immigration rates in the United States, especially in California, grew immensely after World War II. Most of the immigrants came from countries such as the Philippines and Mexico. This graph shows an increase of LPRs. LPRs allow immigrants to work and live in the United States. The growth starts around the late 50s and continues growing through the 60s and 70s. This growth was caused by poor living and employment conditions in the homelands of immigrants, which include harsh labor, low pay, and unsafe environments. Families found it difficult to live in these conditions. This prompted many families to look for better job opportunities in the United States. Because American grape farms gave financial opportunities, many immigrants chose to work on the farms. However, the immigrant workers were met with more unfair and unsafe work conditions on these grape farms. One account from an anonymous worker said even animals enjoyed better conditions. The immigrants experienced low pay, crowded housing, as well as exposure to dangerous pesticides that led to health problems for the workers. These health problems include headaches, skin rashes, vomiting, and respiratory disorders. Because there are limited jobs available and the immigrants' families relied on this income, immigrants could not easily quit despite the inflictions on them. In addition, farm owners profited from favorable corruption and legal protections that the government put against the workers to keep them in the fields.
The Delano Grape Strike began on September 8, 1965, when the Agricultural Workers Organization Committee, or AWOC, voted to strike at the local Filipino hall in Delano, California. The vineyard workers' strike was an extremely risky move, as many lived in company housing and faced the possibility of sudden eviction. Furthermore, workers could easily be fired and replaced by substitute workers, often referred to as scabs. Despite these risks, 800 vineyard workers went on strike, demanding an increase in hourly wages from $1.25 to $1.40, as well as a box payment increase from 10 cents to 25 cents, and enhanced labor protection. Only 1 week later, the National Farm Workers Association, or NFWA, joined the strike. An unexpected move because the NFWA was primarily composed of Mexican workers, while the AWC was mainly Filipino. This alliance transformed the strike into a multiracial movement, drawing the attention of both vineyard workers and owners. As the strike gained momentum, leaders such as Larry Itlong and Cesar Chavez emerged. Itlong helped found and lead the AWC, advocating for better pay and respect for his fellow workers. Clearly seen in one of his most famous quotes, "Let's go. Don't be scared. I'll be in the front. Just follow me." Cesar Chavez joined the strike when the NFWA united with the AWC. Chavez put aside racial backgrounds and gained nationwide attention by organizing nonviolent protests and boycotts, such as the boycott of Shinley Industries in December 1965, which targeted the second largest grower in the area. They boycotted by uniting with other unions to stop the distribution of their wine and liquor. Boycotts such as this would prove effective in the strike. Another form of strike was marches, including the Delano Grape Strike March of 1966, officially called the Pregation, or pilgrimage, which covered nearly 300 miles from Delano to Sacramento. This action attracted coverage from news stations like NBC, with many protesters displaying signs bearing the iconic phrase used in the strike, Huelga, which translates to strike. In the same year, the AWOC and NFWA merged to become the UFW, United Farm Workers. Strikes and boycotts continued to gain traction, and in July 1970, with significant pressure from boycotts and public opinion, the strike came to an end, marking a major victory for the UFW and unionizing the entire American grape industry.
During the Delano grape strike, perspectives and reactions formed from immigrant workers, vineyard owners, and government officials. Mexican and Filipino immigrant workers who participated in the Delano grape strikes expressed much dissatisfaction with their working conditions. Most Mexican workers participated in the strike for the idea of fair treatment, respect, and justice for their race. They saw the poor conditions and prey as disrespect towards them. In part, many Filipino workers, a majority of whom faced poverty and harsh living conditions, were mainly concerned about fair wages and economic security. These opinions were contrasted by government officials and farm owners. Some believed that the workers' demands were excessive and outlandish. According to a Delano workers' diary, growers or persons representing them stated, "These outsiders are agitators just coming to Delano to make trouble," referring to strike leaders and organizers. Government authorities viewed the strikers as lawbreakers and believed the response to the strike was disproportionate. Armed police in Delano frequently arrested picketers, and local law enforcement often acted on behalf of the growers. With the first arrest of Delano workers on September 8, 1965, the same day the strike started. The government also worked with the U.S. Border Patrol to bring in new workers to replace those who left to strike. With harsh pushback from government officials and growers, strikers made the pivotal move to launch boycotts. The boycotts consisted of speeches, walks, rallies, and international newspapers. These actions proved successful by shifting the perspective of the public, antagonizing growers, and unveiling the conditions workers faced. Perspectives on the strike caused pushback from growers and government officials, but it ultimately ended the strike with the public perspective on the side of the Delano workers. 42% of the public agreed with the workers, while 40% did not, the rest with no opinion, showcasing the strength of the public opinion, changing the outcome of the strike to be a win.
In 1975, the Agricultural Labor Relations Act was passed in California. This gave farm workers the right to bargain freely, form farm worker unions, have more protection from discrimination, and get better wages and working conditions. Because of the ALRA, the Agricultural Labor Relations Board was established by the state government. The board was established to protect the rights granted by the ALRA. This gave the right for farm workers to join together in groups to ask for better treatment. Between 1975 and 1979, there was a significant increase in ALRB union certifications, which is official recognition by the state for farm worker unions being established. In the years that followed, several important laws were made to protect the farm workers, including the Migrant and Seasonal Agricultural Worker Protection Act in 1983, the Immigration Reform and Control Act in 1986, and the Worker Protection Standard in 1992. Even with the improvements and with all the acts that were passed, Hispanic farm workers continued to face racism in their daily lives, and their conditions and pay were not as good as their white counterparts. In 2008, the average pay for indigenous farm workers was less than $14,000 per year, while non-indigenous farm workers averaged around $23,000 per year. In the future, we can address these problems by offering fair hours and pay, getting farm workers better safety, and creating programs that support farm workers' transition into farm management and ownership in the future.